Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is now part 4 in my big keys in my collection series. It's part 4 of 5. There'll be one more after this. So for this one, as you can tell by the title, for those of you that are tuning in, this is going to cover my big EC books. Now, for anyone that's been following my channel, you know I have all the EC horror books. I mean, some consider shock suspense stories also thrown in that category. Well, I don't have all the shock suspense stories books, but I have all the Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, and Haunt of Fears. So what I did was I went through those, of course, and the others that I have, you know, the crime stories, shock, to see what I had when it came to what would be considered a big EC key. Now, like I said, I have all the horror ones, but I don't have all the crime ones, the science fiction ones, and all that. So there'll be obviously some that are not in this video that are key when it comes to having EC. Both well-known, like some of the weird fantasy stuff, and some that people really don't talk about, like Moon Girl, right? But this one's just going to mainly cover all the horror books when it comes to EC. So let's get started. The first, I think, big key when it comes to ECs in my collection is Shock Suspense Stories #1. This is a nice 4.550 copy. I want to upgrade it. I want to see if I could get a better copy down the line. I'm not looking to upgrade it anytime soon. This is actually my 3rd copy of this, or at least the 3rd copy that I've owned over the last, I don't know, 7 years or something like that. But not a bad copy. And as many of you know, when I get my upgrades, I sell the undercopies. The other one, this is one that I definitely want to upgrade. Now this is probably like a 3.0. And I bought this years ago from Vince. Do you remember Vince? Semper Fi Comics, for those that have been watching YouTube comic book channels for 5, 6, 7 years. I think he was Semper Fi Comics. Well, anyway, I bought this one off of him. Shock Suspense Stories number, what is it? 5, right? Hanging cover, really cool. But this is one I definitely want to upgrade. And speaking of upgrades, is the next one I also want to upgrade. So you know that I've been, for those who have been watching my other videos, you know I've been in upgrade mode. I haven't gotten to these yet, but I will. Here we have the controversial Shock Suspense Stories #6. Really cool cover, and one of the more big EC keys, one of the more well-known EC keys because of the cover. Here's another one. I mean, like I said, I don't have too many shock books. I might be missing 8 or 9 of them, so that's a sizable chunk out of the 18-issue run, you know. But here's one that's, I think, is key because of the cover. Shock Suspense Stories was 15. Yeah, you know, anytime, you know, unfortunately, it's anytime you have a woman getting strangled or in bondage or whatever, it becomes like this key book, you know, or because of the cover and all that. And, you know, I can understand that, but I think that's the reason why I chose this one in my, I know that's the reason why I chose to put this in my video, because anytime you have a woman in a compromised position like that, whether it's some type of strangulation, and EC had quite a few of those. I don't have too many of those other than that one, but EC had a few others, some better than that. In particular, Crime 23. That's the one I wish I had. But something to that effect. Or is she being strangled in that? That's the one with the boat. I don't know if she's being strangled, that now that I think about it, as she is being like almost like forced off the boat. Whatever. But the point is, those type of books are highly sought out and tend to make keys out of those issues. Now this one right here, we have Shock 17. Now, why is this a key issue? Is it a key issue necessarily for somebody that wants to collect shock? No, but I consider it this particular copy a key because it came from Johnny Craig's personal collection. So it's definitely a key book to have. That copy, not necessarily that issue. And now I forgot to mention, I'm going to go through the raw books first, and then at the end of the video, like what I've been doing with those other videos in this series, the slab books will be after the raw books. So we're just going through the slabs. That's going through the raw books right now. So we're done with the shock books. Here we have a pretty decent key, one that's sought out. We have Crime Patrol number 16. This is the second appearance of the Crypt Keeper, and certainly not an easy book to get. My copy is like a 3540. Will I upgrade it down the line? Probably, but it's not one that I'm looking to upgrade anytime soon. But it's pretty pricey. It's pretty pricey even in this grade. And of course, you want to upgrade it, it's going to be even pricier. But it's not a book that pops up that much. And when it does, like I just said, it's expensive. Now, here is a key book. Definitely, because of the cover. I mean, it's not super expensive for those that are looking to get it, but the price has been going up steadily over the years because people are starting to really become familiar with the cover, even those that are not EC fans, and it's a pretty good cover on top of that. So here we have Crime Suspense Stories number 16. Really cool. Here's one that is definitely a key book, and this is a book that I bought off of Dr. Von Chilla about, I don't know, 5 years ago. I had a copy that was really low grade. I sold it, and I bought this one off of the good doctor. It's Crime Suspense Stories number 17. It's the infamous suicide cover. It looks like somebody, you know, when you just first look at it up close, it looks like somebody's putting a gun to this guy's head and killing him. But then when you look in the mirror in the background, this right here, this hand, this arm, actually belongs to him. It looks a little weird, but that's why it's a suicide cover. It's actually the guy killing himself. Here's another one that is key. Now, this is the first horror cover at EC. It's not the first horror story, obviously, because of the issue before it, and I think Moon Girl something is one of the first horror stories when it comes to EC. But the first horror cover, we have War Against Crime number 11. Like I said, the first horror cover, but also it's the second appearance of the Vault Keeper. And again, like the Crime Patrol 16, which is the second appearance of the Crypt Keeper, it's not easy to find. And when you do find it, now that's a nice grade. I think that's anywhere between a 6 and a 6.5 maybe. It might even be a 7, but who knows? But it's definitely at least a 6. Anyway, in that grade and higher, and even a little lower, it's very hard to find, and it's pretty pricey. Now here's a low-grade copy. This is like a 2.5. It's a nice 2.5. You know, there are 2.5s and then there are 2.5s. But this is a 2.5 copy. This is definitely something that I would like to upgrade down the line, but we'll see what happens. We have Haunt of Fear number 15, which is the first issue of Haunt of Fear. Now, there's been always talk, who is this individual on the cover? Is it the old witch? No, it's not the old witch. It's some guy. It's not even a witch. It kind of looks like the old witch, but it's not the old witch. Some might say it's even a prototype. But whatever, this is the first issue of Haunt of Fear. Not easy to come by, like any of those first issues, whether it's Crypt of Terror or Vault of Horror, and pretty pricey. But one day down the line, I'd like to upgrade it. Here we have another Haunt of Fear. This, I think, is a classic cover, and it's also my favorite cover. We have Haunt of Fear number 12. Really, really wonderful cover. Just the way it's, obviously the way it's drawn, but the colors of it. You see like the moon in the background. It's just really gorgeous up against the nighttime sky that Graham Ingalls drew on this cover. So it's really something nice. And that's a nice grade too. It's like a 7.0. I think it's a 7.0. Now we're getting into the Vault of Horrors. There'll be still more Haunt of Fears, but they're slabbed, so we'll see those at the end of the video. But those are the only raw Haunt of Fears that I think are key enough to be in this video. I mean, some may argue there's plenty of Haunt the Fears that people might find to be key, or Tales from the Crypt or Vault of Horror that I didn't include here. But, you know, here we have Vault of Horror number 30. This, I think a lot of people would agree that this is a classic cover. I believe this was used in the Seduction of the Innocent trial. A couple of these have been used in the Seduction of the Innocent trial. And a couple more will be be showcased. But here we have the severed arm attached to the subway, train, cart handle. Pretty good. Pretty good. Here's another one. Vault of Horror number 32. I think it's a classic because it's the censored cover. Now, there are several censored covers in EC, this being one of them, and I think this one being the most notable because you take a look at the zombie that's coming after this guy, you see almost like this shine coming from his head, and you like sit back and say, that's weird. What is that? Well, originally it was a cleaver that was in this guy's head, which was restored in many reprinted editions or reprinted copies of this book. So it's the censored cover, and I think that's one of the reasons why it becomes more of a key in the Vault of Horror run. This one needs no introduction, and we all know why this is a key. It's the classic Christmas cover, Vault of Horror number 35. I've had several copies of this book over the years. I think this copy is like a 5.0, maybe a 5.5, I don't know. But it's a nice copy. But I've had like, I think, 2 other copies before I got that one, and I've had that one for about 5 years now, maybe, something like that. Here's a classic cover and a classic, a big key in the Vault of Horror run, and it's also a hanging cover too. This is the first appearance of Drusilla with Vault of Horror number 37, and yeah, I think it's one of the best hanging covers, if not the best hanging cover at EC. Some people might think that Crime 20 is the best hanging cover. I don't have that book anymore. I traded it off about 2 or 3 years ago. No regrets. That would have been in this video because that's most certainly a key in the EC library. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because that's the hanging cover that gets the most attention. And I could see why, but I think Vault of Horror 37 is way better than that one. So we're done with the raw vaults. Okay, now we're going to move into Tales from the Crypt, then we're going to go into the slabs. All right, so right from the start, big key, Crypt of Terror 17. It's a very well presenting, maybe 2.5, 3.0. This is definitely a book I'd like to upgrade down the line to a nice 4.0, 4.5. You know, but I think it's a 2.5. But one day I'm going to get it graded because one day I'd like to sell this off, and I think selling it as a slab will get me what I want for it so that I can, you know, get my other copy. But definitely a key. It's sometimes considered the first issue. First issue of Tales from the Crypt with the Crypt of Terror number 17. Not an easy book to get. And another one that's not easy to get and I think is key enough, Crypt of Terror number 18. You know, these Crypt of Terrors, there are only 3, and I'll show you the third one in a moment, and I included all of them in this video. You have Crypt of Terror number 19, right? I think all these Crypt of Terrors are keys because they're not easy to find. You know, when you try to collect for Tales from the Crypt, there are a lot of issues that are difficult to locate, and there are a lot of issues that are very pricey, and sometimes both of those categories meet. Most of the time they do. But I think, and I think it's definitely the case with the Crypt of Terrors. It's more likely with the 17 when it comes to hard to find and very expensive. But the 18 and the 19, the other 2 that I showed you, I think are definitely sought out because sometimes people want to finish their Crypt of Terror run, and it's a very short run. It's a 3-issue run, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do because they're just sometimes so difficult to find. You know, my before I move on to Tales from the Crypt proper, my local comic book shop guy has a Crypt of Terror 19, and it ceases to amaze me how that book hasn't sold yet. I don't know what grade it is. It might be a 3 or something like that, 3.5. But who cares? It's just for all the reasons I just mentioned. It's very hard to find, and I'm just surprised it hasn't sold yet. Here is another one, sometimes credited as Tales from the Crypt #1. Well, makes sense because it's the first time it was called Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt #20. Again, definitely a key book when it comes to ECs and Tales from the Crypt collecting, and another book that's not easy to come by, and when it does show up, it's expensive. It really is. Tales from the Crypt #23, one of my favorite issues, and I think that this is key, not because it's one of my favorites, or my favorite out of the entire Tales from the Crypt run. I think it's key because this cover has been used, it's become famous because this was the cover used on the EC Big Book of the 1970s. I think I had a video over a year and a half ago when I first bought my Big Book. I felt as an EC collector, I was less of an EC collector because I didn't have the Big Book in my collection. And it's over there. I'm not going to grab it because this is too much for me to take out and all that stuff. I mean, one might consider, hey, that would be something to collect, something, especially in this type of video. But anyway, that cover, the Tales from the Crypt 23, was used on the Big Book. It was called Horror Comics from the 1950s. And if you watched the Vault of Horror film, the Amicus Vault of Horror film from, I think, 1972 or 1973, whatever it was, one of the stories, I think it was the 4th story, it was called Bargain in Death. The writer, who's, trying to fake his own death to get his insurance money, you see when he sits back down in his chair, or a couple of times when he's in his flat, you see the Big Book there. So it was a nice little addition. But yeah, that's why I think it's key. A few more raws, and then we'll go into the slabs. I think this is definitely a key. My local comic book shop has this book, and it's a lower grade than this. This is probably like a 5, a very nice 5. One day I'll have it slabbed, but I don't know when. But this was an upgrade. I had a lower grade. I had a 3.0, for a while, and I sold it off. It's sold pretty quickly last year, but my local comic book shop has that copy too, and I'm surprised. Like I was saying in many videos, when it comes to ECs and even pre-code horror, we could extend out to, Harvey and Avon and Atlas. There are fans out there that love pre-code horror, and I've been getting into pre-code horror outside of EC recently too. I've said in late 2022 that 2023, when it comes to my collecting, is going to be the year of the upgrade, but it's also the year of the pre-code horror, or year of Atlas for me, because I've been buying a lot of those and trying to get as many of them as I can. But like I was saying, whether it's EC, Atlas, or any of the other pre-codes out there, some can be quite pricey. And I think that a lot of superhero fans, and I'm one of them, I'm a superhero fan, their resources are very much spread thin, trying to fill in the gaps of their superhero collection or to upgrade books in their superhero collection. Why am I going to spend $9,000 or $10,000 on a 5.0 Black Cat Mystery 50? I don't even know if it's that much. It probably is, but there are pre-codes like that. Why am I going to spend that amount of money when that could go toward, maybe if I'm patient, a 3.5 or a 4.0 Tales of Suspense 39, or maybe a 3.0 Amazing Spider-Man 1. It doesn't make sense. So I get that totally. I get that. So that's why I think some of the books I was saying with my comics up, they're not really moving, because what do I want? Do I want to spend X amount of dollars on Tales from the Crypt 24, or do I want to try to get I don't know. Whatever. I want to try to get a first Black Widow or whatever. That's what I think. I could be wrong though. Here's definitely another key. Tales from the Crypt number 33. This is the origin of the Crypt Keeper. You know, now that I think about it, I really should have, and I have it raw too, I really should have included Haunt of Fear number 14, because that's the origin of the old witch. As a matter of fact, if you give me a moment, it's within arm's reach. So let me add that, because that's true. That really is a key issue, because it's an origin story. You know, in EC, you don't get really too many first appearances or origin stories. So with that, when you do get them, whether it's the Crypt Keeper or Moon Girl or Drusilla or whomever, it's a big deal. Hang tight. I'm back. Here we have it. Haunt of Fear number 14. Yeah, I have to give this credit. It's not a bad copy. Nice 4.5 copy. It's the origin of the old witch. It's definitely a key. Definitely a key. I mean, there are bigger keys, especially in the Haunt of Fear run, but it's definitely key. Let's finish up Tales of the Raw, Tales from the Crypt. Let's get to some slabs, okay? We're already at 21 minutes. You know, originally, I thought that EC was just going to be pooled together with the next video that I'm planning to do, like some independence and all that stuff. But really, EC's a monster in its own in my collection. Sometimes I forget that it's not just a few books. It's sets, you know? And I talk too much, so that probably doesn't help. This is, I think, a key cover because of the cover. Tales from the Crypt 35, classic werewolf cover. I think this is the best werewolf cover out of all the werewolf covers. I do like the Vault of Horror 17. It's not in this video. I don't think it's key enough, but it's one of my favorites. And I think the Tales from the Crypt 46, it's another classic werewolf cover, but I think the 35 beats it out. Because you see the werewolf full, it's like looking right at you, and you see some of, what is that coming out of its mouth? It's like the fog coming from its mouth, you know, the vapor, the breath. Here we have another classic Tales from the Crypt. I've had several of these. This is the zombie cover. It's, you know, see, look at the zombie there. Really cool book. I think it's like a 5.5 copy. I've had several copies of that over the years, and I think I upgraded to that one maybe 2 years ago. And like I was just mentioning, Tales from the Crypt 46. It's because it's the werewolf cover. It's the last issue of Tales from the Crypt, and it's kind of scarce. I mean, it's not super rare, but it's definitely one of those that's harder to find than some of them. Okay, we're at 22 minutes. Let's see. Ready for some slabs? I think we could get through these pretty quickly. There's quite a few slabs here, but not as many slabs here as there were raw books. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, so buckle up. I put this one here because it was used in this, it says right here, used in the Seduction of the Innocent trial. And it's a double beheading cover. So we go back to Haunt of Fear. This was an upgrade. I had a 4.0. I didn't like the 4.0, so I upgraded to a 5.5. I think, I don't remember. All I know is I upgraded it. So I think this is a good one. I think it's more of a classic cover. Big key? Maybe. Here's a big key. Talk about origin stories. I was just talking about origin stories with you about the old witch, right? Well, here's the origin story of how all these guys, the ghoul lunatics, got their own comic series. I love this book. And you remember I mentioned a nice 4.0 copy too. Remember, and scarce. It's another one of those books that's hard to find. It is. You know, those early the Cryptid Terrors, when I say early Cryptid Terrors, there's only 3 of them. They're hard to get. They're hard to find. They're hard to pay for. And the first 3 Haunt of Fears are hard to find too. And even the first 3 Vault of Horrors are hard to find. So those threes come in threes. Are challenging to find. And that's one of them. One of the biggest ones. Definitely a key. This is the last of the Haunt of Fears I'm going to show for this video. Definitely a classic cover. Well-known cover. Haunt of Fear number 17. Zombie cover. By far. Some say it's one of the best horror covers. I agree. Not the best, though. I don't think. Not the best. But one of the best. Key book. I upgraded this year. I got a 3.5. I originally think I had a 2.5 or something like that. Vault of Horror number 12, so it's actually Vault of Horror number 1. Nice. Eventually I want to upgrade this again to maybe a 4.5 or something like that, but I'm very happy with this one. It looks so much better than that 2.5 I had. Here we go again. Haunt of Fear number 16. This is the first appearance of the Old Witch. Now, the Old Witch, I want to upgrade this. It has a little bit of rust on the staple. It's no big deal, but it's a nice white pager and a 4.0. But this is definitely something that I would like to upgrade down the line. Maybe I will soon, maybe I won't. But I always like the yellow. You know, like the Vault of Horror just showed you. Not too many ECs have, or at least in the horror set, have the yellow background up against the title. But the Old Witch, before I go on to the next one, that's the end of the Haunt of Fears I'm going to show for this video. The Old Witch is not as valuable as the Crypt Keeper, obviously, or the Vault of Horror when it comes to price, or I think even just being sought out. I mean, it's sought out, but not as much as the others that I mentioned. All right, now we go from one first appearance to the next, and I only have 2 more after this, so we're done. War Against Crime number 10, the first appearance of the Vault Keeper. Will this be upgraded one day soon? One day soon? I don't know, but one day. But yeah, again with the yellow and the black, it looks really good. By far one of the most infamous comics in comic book history. One of the most infamous covers. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. This is EC, and we're going back into crime for Crime Suspense Stories number 22. Nice 3.5 copy. I had it pressed, and I thought it was going to be a 3. Came out to a 3.5. Will I upgrade this one day? I don't think so. It's pretty expensive. I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. But it's, again, one of those highly sought out books. Now, I know there were a lot of decapitation covers in pre-code horror outside of EC. Some may argue that they were better than that one. Maybe they were. But this is definitely one of the most infamous covers in comic book history, perhaps the most infamous, regardless of whether it was one of the best. And last, but certainly not least, I think this is the crown jewel, in my opinion, of EC comic book collecting. Some may disagree. There are a lot of great books that I don't have when it comes to EC. A lot of early, in particular, like War Against Crime 1's a nice one to get. Some of those early crime patrols, which were like international comics or whatever they were. Those are some crazy covers, like with the Clown and the Plague. Those are some classic covers to books that I don't have that would easily be in the top 10 big EC books. But despite all that, despite even the Crime 22, I still think that it's Crime Patrol 15, the first appearance of the Crypt Keeper. That's the biggest DC book. I think the Crime Suspense, Crime Suspense Stories 22, when it comes to the higher grades, will edge out when it comes to price over the Crypt Keeper. But I still think this is what really made EC very popular, the introduction of the Crypt Keeper, and then it followed with, as you know, Crypt of Terror, Tales from the Crypt. We had Vault of Horror, Haunt of Fear, and I think those in large portion gave birth to those crime books too. I know they were all coming out around the same time, but I think what really started, which kicked off that new trend, in my opinion, was Crime Patrol 15. With the first appearance of the Crypt Keeper, and then everything else that came after that, it's just gravy. So it's been almost a half hour. I hope you enjoyed my video on big EC books in my collection. Like I said, I don't have them all, but I have a nice chunk, and most of them are in very, very nice grade. Yeah, that's largely due to my my upgrading over the last year. I've been really upgrading these books, and it's starting to show. Oh, actually, one more thing I almost forgot. I can't say. I think these are key. Well, maybe these are more key in my collection rather than EC, but I think it's a good part of EC history. Little things, little knickknacks that go with EC fans. I don't have all the little knickknacks. I don't have the photos of the Ghoul Lunatics or the EC fan club pin. Those would be wonderful to have, and I think they would be highly sought out by fans. But I do have some things from Johnny Craig. I have a letter from Johnny Craig that was sent to some gentleman, and it has his autograph at the end, the way he signs his name, and I think that was pretty cool. And one of my favorites was just Johnny Craig drawing a woman singing. It's not horror themed, it's not crime themed, it's not science fiction themed or anything like that. It's just an original. You could see where he penciled it in and then he inked it himself. To me, this is a nice little thing to have. And it's, you know, got the certificate of authenticity. It's really cool. It's just nice to know that Johnny Craig, you know, well, he was actually right here doing this. It's pretty cool. But that's it for this video. The final video in this mini-series will come out soon enough. It'll be all independent books. It's probably not going to be anywhere near as long as this one or any of the others. But it's definitely something that I'd like to talk to. Some big, key, independent books. So I'd hope you tune in for that one, just as you turned in for this one. And if you haven't tuned in for the others, please check them out. Thank you, everybody, and take care.